Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm really excited to be talking to Bob Lachance today, virtual assistant expert. He's the King VA. So I know I just made up that title. He did not give himself that title. But we're going to be talking about how to use virtual assistants in your business. I can tell you, somebody that has about 80 virtual staff members across my companies, it will revolutionize your business if you know how to manage them and if you kind of treat it right. So Bob, excited to have you here today, buddy.
Mike, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about virtual assistants today. You're also obviously a real estate investor, did a couple hundred deals last year, so crushing it there too. Tell me, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it you were a real estate investor? I know this answer to this already. You were a real estate investor before you were a VA aficionado, right?
Yep, I started about 21 years ago.
Okay.
Today. So I was definitely an investor first, and then jumped in. You know my story. Jumped into a little bit of real estate education side of things while I was investing, and then 2013 is actually when I got introduced to what a virtual assistant was. I never knew it. I just knew that our student base and myself were a little overwhelmed with tasks, and so I was looking out there for some sort of solution, whether it's a product or a service. I think you started pretty much kind of the same way because you realized you're overwhelmed. You didn't have enough time to actually do the tasks. So I hired my first VA, and then a light bulb went on and said, you know what? Our student base could actually use this. So I kind of married the real estate education platform that we helped set up with the virtual assistant world on the investor side. So put it together. 2014 is when I launched my first company.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like a lot. I know a lot of people that provide services or software services and products for the real estate investing industry, but it's necessity is the mother of invention, right? You found some ways, you needed it in your business, you needed help, and you found out a way to do it, and you're like, you know what, other people need this too. So maybe
especially on the labor side, because you look at, I know every state is different, but you look at the way, the world is going, you look at the minimum wage keeps going up and up and up. I'm in Connecticut. I think minimum wage is up to $15.69. So I don't know about you, but in my area, if I hire someone that's minimum wage, they're not too qualified. Right. So it gets very, very challenging as small businesses to actually build up and hire someone in-house if minimum wage keeps going up to 14, 15, 16, 17 plus dollars per hour.
Right. And even then, you're competing with big, if somebody could go work at McDonald's for that and they get benefits and all those other things, right? And you can't provide those things. It's like, why wouldn't somebody just go work for a huge company that not only pays minimum wage or maybe a little bit more?
Yeah, and the beauty
has all the benefits and stuff they might need as well. It's hard to compete as a small business.
Right, and I know that the virtual assistants you hire, the virtual assistants that come through our company, they all have 4-year college degrees. So it's very, very important. That's why I think outsourcing. COVID was kind of an interesting thing where it opened everyone's mind more to work with offshore companies or to outsource and work from home, things like that. So I think it's opened a lot of people's minds of using virtual assistants more.
Yeah. So I've been using VAs for a long time, and we even have executive level people on our team that I talked about that are, we had a controller, we had that was overseas, not so much of. Well, I think a lot of times when people hear the word VA, they assume administrative VA, right? But you can have virtual team members like all over the world that do amazing things. And so, but let's talk about and by the way, for those listening, I want to kind of escalate this. We're going to talk about entry level, like if you had it to do all over again or you're just starting, here's where you're at. And then we're going to kind of elevate it up to like, what are some more advanced things that virtual staff can do for you that you might not think that they can do for you, but it's possible. So let's just talk about like kind of getting started. With all now, I'm sure that you were probably the same. You had them doing basic tasks, and then you're like, you know what, with the right training and the right support, like they can do way more. So maybe talk about what's possible now for those that are just getting started.
Yeah, we look at businesses when you're first starting out. You say, all right, what is the first thing that you need, that we all need? Of course, you need leads. Any business needs leads, but if you don't have a presence out there, you're pretty much behind the curve. Look at social media. I know for us in our area, most of my real estate is in Connecticut, but I also do a little bit in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. But mostly what we do is Connecticut, and we have a lot of competitors out there that are on social media. So I think it's very, very important for all of us investors to get content out there. Now I know some new people that I talk to say, all right, well, Bob, I don't have anything I'm working on. What kind of content I'm going to do? So what we always promote is say, all right, walk through a property. If you get leads, walk through a property. Grab your phone, record exactly what you're going to be doing when you do a walkthrough. As soon as you take that recording, you could upload it up into a Google Drive, send it off to your virtual assistant, and they could cut up little snippets. So what happens is you could do 2 walkthroughs and you'll have content for a month to be able to post. And then obviously other things are posting articles, they could also write content. There's things like that get your face out there and always be relevant, because when people see you a lot, they relate that to you doing business, no matter how new you are or how seasoned you are.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about, I think one of the biggest challenges is that a lot of people will listen to guys like us and they're like, hey, I hired a virtual assistant one way or another. And they're like, yeah, I tried it. It doesn't really work out. And it usually means for them, like, so I'll just do it myself, which is not good as an entrepreneur. Like, you didn't sign up to be like, CEO and chief bottle washer. Sometimes you got to do it, but as an entrepreneur, you have an hourly rate that is generally well above the administrative level, right? So you need to find a way to outsource those tasks. And in my experience, a lot of the reasons that they quote don't work is they didn't do a great job of setting the expectations of the responsibilities of that assistant, and they didn't do a great job of training them so that they knew where to go to for. Because in my experience, especially, I know a lot of your virtual assistants at Riva Global are in the Philippines, and in my experience, Filipino virtual assistants definitely want to please who they're working for.
Right.
Like, they have a lot of pride in their job and things like that. So if it's not working out, I don't think it's, you could have mishired a person just like you could anywhere, but it's often because you didn't really set them up for success. So would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's funny. I made that same mistake when I first started working with virtual assistants. I literally, when I got my first VA, this is back in 2013, I wanted them to build a buyer's list. And then I also wanted them to do some of my bookkeeping. And then I wanted them to do some cold calling. It was just, they didn't add up. So one of the common mistakes that I made and I see people make is they're not quite sure what they want the virtual assistant to do. They know they're extremely overwhelmed. So that's one of the things that we do. We set up calls, obviously strategic calls with our team that could walk through that with you. And I always say, all right, look at your business. Mike, you have over 80 virtual assistants, and you broke down exactly what you want your VAs to do through a job description. So if you want them to do lead generation, maybe you want them to focus on cold calling, as an example, right? Or you want them to do texting, or however you want your virtual assistant to do. Maybe it's taking inbound leads from your direct mail, as an example. But the idea and the thought process is you have to make sure you know exactly what you want your virtual assistant to do. It's the same thing of hiring someone in office. You know you need help. What do you need help with? So what I would recommend you do is just grab your calendar and almost do a day in the life of yourself on what you need to outsource first. And you'll realize that once you actually start outlining what you do on a daily basis, you'll realize all of the non-producing tasks that you're doing that you can outsource.
Yeah. And I think, people just need to think about, like, they're still hiring people, right? Like, I think, and then one of the reasons I sometimes don't even like to use the word VA is because it sends this connotation sometimes of just like some faceless like assistant out there. But the reality is like my main assistant has been with me for I think like 13 years now. She's amazing, right? But she wouldn't like being on the phones and she wouldn't be good at it. She would do it if I asked, but she is more of a executive assistant type thing, just detail oriented, like somehow remembers to do all the shit that I ask her to do. And she's very methodical about it, right? And so like I wouldn't hire somebody in my office that is an outbound cold caller and a admin, because the admin skill, you typically need people that are very detail oriented and methodical. And the phone based person needs somebody with tough skin that doesn't get told to screw off like all day long. But they don't necessarily have to be. I'm not saying you should hire anybody that's not detail oriented, but it's not as detail. A sales or sales function is generally doesn't require as detail oriented as an admin or somebody else.
Yeah, we do predictive indexed to offset that. Yeah, to make sure you laser in exactly what tasks you're looking to actually do, and it matches with that.
Yeah, and we've looked. You might hire graphic designers, or you're looking for people that have a skill in that, not just some random. I mean, there's AI and stuff now to where a general administrative virtual assistant could probably figure out how to use the AI tools and stuff, but they're not a trained graphic designer. That's really their craft and what they love to do, right?
Correct. Yeah. And it's funny you said that AI. AI is actually a really, really good tool. It doesn't take the place of a human. It's a very good tool. Once you're trained on that, it can be very, very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some tips you could maybe share for people to kind of better manage? I mean, so you guys, when you guys are hiring, not you, Bob, but listeners, when you hire a virtual assistant, you can go hire somebody yourself on Upwork or somewhere like that, where you're hiring them. They haven't been proven. It's up to you to vet them out, do background checks, check their work, whatever. And then it's up to you to kind of manage them. You can use tools where you're monitoring, they have to basically clock in, and you can monitor their screen, and you can do all those things, and then you have to pay them and everything. So that's kind of the do-it-yourself model, right? Then there's the there's kind of done with you. People will place a virtual assistant, and you pay them a fee to maybe place them, but then you're still responsible for managing them and paying them and stuff. It's almost like a headhunter that just kind of places them. And then there's the done for you, where they'll hire them for you. By the way, if they don't work out, they'll replace them for you the next day. You're gonna pay the company, and the company's gonna pay the person. You don't have to. They're being managed by somebody. Like if they're not doing well, they get coached and all that, which is more of what you guys do at Riva Global, right? Is the kind of done for you.
Yeah, model. So we do the done for you model. We've I've tried everything. Obviously, Mike, we've both been around for a long time in business.
Yeah.
And we've tried every different type of model. We found that the best model that works for the majority of individuals that we work with is they want the white glove treatment, right? Yeah. So we have a whole team in the Philippines that does sourcing and recruiting. We have a training team, we have a placements team, operations, and HR as well. So they handle all of that, exactly what you just said.
Yep. So whether people that are listening are doing it yourself or not, you need to be able to act at least like a done-for-you company. Right. I mean, the easy button is to hire a done-for-you company like Riva Global. But let's talk a little bit about like what actually goes into this, because people just assume the easiest thing for real estate investors to do is throw money at stuff, but it doesn't always work out that way, right? It doesn't always work out well. And so, I mean, let's talk about kind of, I just want to emulate, if people are doing this themselves or they already have virtual assistants that are working for them, like what are the things they need to put in place to properly manage somebody so that they're most effective?
Yeah, I think you should always have a start-of-day report and an end-of-day report. This is very important because when you're working with a virtual staff, you want to make sure they show up, right? And you want to make sure they fulfill what you want them to fulfill. So let's use an example of you have a lead. Let's say you're using a lead manager, and your virtual assistant is in your CRM, and you have, 2,000-3,000 old leads. So what they're doing every single day is they're re-engaging, whether they're texting them through your software or they're cold calling with the idea of getting those sellers warm again to set an appointment for your in-house individual. Or you could be the salesperson yourself as well. So they're going in and they're doing this repetitive task to get that lead back up. For me, that is a necessity for all of our businesses to have, because, whatever type of marketing you do, whether you're doing TV, you're doing radio, you're doing direct mail, PPC, all that kind of stuff, you will have leads in your database that you either couldn't get a hold of them again, talk to them once, and then you just can't get a hold of them again. So that's very, very important for you to always, get those leads back up and running, because, this, you and I have been in business for, a long, long time, and a seller may not be ready today.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that happens in all of our lives, whether it's, a death, divorce, et cetera, et cetera. Stuff happens that we don't know. So it's always, if someone raised their hand one day to say, yes, I want to sell their house, they may be more motivated next month or the month after because we don't know what happens.
Yeah. The money's in the follow-up, right? So
Yep.
I say this all the time, like a lot of real estate investors will market to somebody so most of the people that we buy houses from, like truly distressed sellers, have often been distressed for years or decades, right? It's just like when you go to some of these houses, they haven't been updated in 30 years. Like the distress started a long time ago. It's just, there was a straw that broke the camel's back, if you will, eventually as to when you bought that house. And so there's no doubt there's a ton of people that have been, we, as real estate investors, a lot of times we market to people and we expect like an immediate result from somebody that's been distressed for years or decades and found a reason to not call us or sell yet. But I don't wish this on anybody, but the level of distress that a lot of those folks have will only get worse with time. Like things will deteriorate, health will deteriorate, house will deteriorate, finances will deteriorate. Like all those things are probably, again, I don't wish this on anybody, but realistically not getting better for most.
Yeah, and I'll give you a good example. Literally, I had our top acquisition guy came in the office. He's like, hey, we should buy, because we're doing some buy and holds as well. So he said, hey, we have a great opportunity. Properties in Southington. It's a side-by-side duplex, and it's a hoarder house. So one half is the gentleman lives in there. The other half, the guy hasn't paid in 3 years. So, and this is the stuff, to your point, we don't know this, that there's a lot of individuals that have pain for 1, 2, 3 years. The guy that's living in the house, the owner is such a nice person that has been paying all of it, literally all of his oil or his gas bill, his electric bill, so they don't shut it off. But he's been in pain for 3 years, and finally he raised his hands like, I can't handle anymore. Could you guys help me? So that's a perfect example.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about kind of myths of what VAs, more importantly, I guess, can't do. So what are some things that, obviously there's some obvious ones, but in the real estate investing space, like what are some obvious ones that probably wouldn't be a good fit for virtual assistants?
Yeah, so I use virtual assistants for almost everything, but one of the things that I recommend or I don't recommend you have your virtual assistant do, and that's actually close deals. So be your closer. And I know some people may argue with me on this. However, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've tried.
And you mean acquisitions? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So appointment setting, yes. Following up and lead generation, 100% VAs are phenomenal to do. Phenomenal. But actually, when that lead gets there, it's actually putting it to paper, getting the seller to sign a contract. Because a lot of times they just don't know your business like you know it. Yeah. You could have different types of exit strategies. You could buy and hold. You could wholesale, right? You could rehab. You know your business, or your acquisition guys in your office know your business better than any virtual assistant ever could. And this is just, I've tried everything. I know some may disagree with me, but I would say that one you should keep to yourself or to your in-house staff.
Yeah, those leads are so valuable. I agree with you. That's one that I'm not a huge advocate for. I know some people that have used, you could use a virtual acquisitions person if you're buying over the phone, but they're generally U.S. based. But, I just think there's some cultural differences. And so let me ask you this, Bob. You did over a couple hundred houses last year. Are you buying in person or are you buying over the phone?
We buy all over the phone.
All over the phone, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm the advocate for the other way. Like I mean, clearly people do it because you just proved that you did over 200 houses buying virtually. But I was, raised up, and what we did for my whole career was belly to belly, like buying in person, right? And I have a general feeling that you can't compete against me if I'm sitting at the kitchen table with them and you're calling them on the phone. But I do think that COVID changed that a little bit, right? People just got more comfortable with doing stuff virtually.
Hey, I'm still surprised.
Obviously, if you're buying in person, you can't buy with a virtual person. Go ahead.
I'm still surprised they do it. Even to this day, I am still very surprised that it happens. So in Connecticut, so like I said, we do it in a bunch of different states. In Connecticut, we're doing a hybrid now, to where you're right. Meeting someone in face to face does bring up your probability of getting that property under contract 100%. Yeah. But they still do it virtual.
Yeah. And you have to decide as a business owner, is it like, it's it's clearly more efficient to do it on the phone because you're not spending, your acquisitions folks aren't spending half of their time in the car driving from appointment to appointment or showing up and there's a no-show and you just wasted a third of your day on that or whatever, right?
Yeah,
So it's a
it
balance.
is. It is an interesting model, though. I think for all of us too. It's a lot of it is getting by the mental hurdle that you cannot do it over the phone, because
Yeah.
you can. And it took us a while to finally, understand that people psychologically will do it, whether we understand it or not. It happens.
Yeah. So Bob, what are some things that people? I think everybody knows you could use virtual assistants to help with lead gen, follow up kind of specialists, maybe even lead intake. But
Yep.
what are some things that you guys provide virtual assistants for that kind of surprises some people that they can do?
Yeah, a lot of like I'll just use property management as an example.
Okay.
Virtual assistants could do anything from leasing, intakes to bookkeeping to invoicing. We have a lot of virtual assistant clients that are in the property management side, because anything you think about this, anything you could do over the phone. We have a portfolio as well, and I cannot stand getting a phone call from a tenant, where a virtual assistant's phenomenal at that, because what we do is we create the frequently asked questions and answers to it, give them the virtual assistant, and they can handle every single question that comes over from a tenant. I think
Yeah.
that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yep.
It really
We
comes
also
down
have,
to if you have a process for it and you can train somebody on it, I mean, they can do it,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and we have attorney clients as well. That, because there's a lot of paperwork. Anything that you do paperwork for. We have mortgage brokers as well that connect. There's a lot of paperwork and document follow up in the mortgage world as well. So those are just some of the things that obviously may not be some of the things that you think of right away.
Yeah. So, and aside from, like, obviously as time goes by, more and more people or businesses are comfortable outsourcing stuff, especially small businesses. But do you see any what are some evolutionary things you see happening over the next, few years in the kind of virtual staffing space? Anything pop out at you?
Yeah, I think for me personally, as minimum wage keeps going up, I think that we all have to, and I know I have a virtual assistant company, whether you use my company or not, I think everyone has to look at outsourcing. Whether you outsource in the United States or you outsource to a different country, I think because of costs keep going up and up and up, we all have to be open-minded to working with somebody remote. It could be someone in another state or another city, not in your office in particular, but we have to, because costs are just continue to go up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is a no-brainer when you start to realize that you can scale. A lot of people, that are listening to this might be home-based now, so you don't have an office anymore necessarily. And so it really is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, I don't know where we'd be without being able to staff. Here's the truth. If you think of whatever market you're in, like, there's talent around you in your market, but not when you look at the whole world and you're agnostic to where somebody could come from. Like, it opens up so many doors that you don't have to settle for not being able to find somebody right near your office. And truthfully, in my experience, Americans are kind of lazy, and so it's real easy to find people that don't really want to work anymore, and they might take the job, but they're not that efficient because they're just lazy.
It is interesting that you say that, because we're always hiring here in Connecticut as well, and it is a lot harder. For some reason, people are getting lazier and lazier. Hopefully now we're going to undo what's been done for the last 4+ years, but hopefully now, the hard work comes into play. I mean, how we all grew up, that, Mike, how we grew up is a little different than how our kids are growing up.
Oh yeah, yeah. My wife and I make the Gen X jokes all the time. Like, we would just break your neck and rub a little dirt on it, and that's just not that way anymore, right?
No, it's not. I mean, I look at my own kids; it's a little different. We were brought up a lot different.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Part of the game.
For sure. Well, we'll toughen those kids up one way or another.
That's right.
Well, everybody, virtual assistants are a powerful tool to use in your business. We're going to add a link down below for how you can contact Riva Global to learn about how they might be able to help you, and of course a bunch of links you can connect with Bob as well. So Bob, really great to see you, buddy. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
looking forward to our paths crossing again, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks.
We'll see you. Everybody, see you on the next show. Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.